Today we're going to talk about something that's every director's nightmare, and that's when an actor quits or just doesn't show up, disappears off the face of the earth. It happens a lot more frequently than you would think, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how to deal with it. Now, when you get started with a production and you have your cast in line, everything's looking good. You feel really confident, you feel that the actors are really excited about being on this project, and chances are most of them are. However, things can happen. When you have an actor who's a no-show, it can be a disaster. I'm not going to lie here. People will start thinking the worst when an actor doesn't show up, especially if it's a key character. And unfortunately, there's really nothing that can be done about it when it happens. All you can do is try to identify the early warning signs that an actor or an actress might not be as reliable as you would hope. When an actor is more than 15 minutes late to their call time, get somebody on that. Get somebody to give the actor a call, find out what's going on. It could be something really minor, like maybe he's stuck in traffic, or maybe she slept in a little later than she expected to. These things do happen, but sometimes you make that call and you either get no answer at all, or they finally tell you, hey, I'm out. Now, there's a lot of different reasons why an actor might quit a production. They might have an old injury from an accident that's bugging them and they thought they could push through it and they can't. Some of them, unfortunately, are habitual drinkers or use recreational drugs a little too much. Maybe they don't get along with other members of the cast or a person of the crew. Or maybe they really don't see your vision and they're constantly fighting with you about it and they just feel like your vision is not what they want to be a part of. And then another very common problem is a lot of actors go through depression. And it's not unheard of for an actor or an actress to not show up because they don't feel they're worthy of the role, or something along those lines. Chances are you're never going to know the real reason why they walked out, unless it was because of you or somebody on the cast and crew. They're not going to admit to anything else, really. So be prepared to be baffled. They might even blame you even though it's something else. The best thing you can really do in order to prevent this sort of catastrophe is right at the beginning. When you start casting and you find a few people that are suitable for the role, vet them. Look them up. See how many films that they've actually done. Sometimes you'll get people buffing their resumes up there a little bit. So take a look at IMDb, look up the films that they've been in, make sure their name's on them, make sure that they were completed. IMDb can be your friend here, but I warn you, there are a lot of films that are not on the IMDb, either because they didn't get finished or because the director or producer didn't know how to get them on there. But it is a good start. Googling film names that are on their resumes will also help you out in that department. Once you've found out that they have actually been in films, and you're going to probably find that a lot of them are local, get a hold of the other directors or producers. Ask them about the actor. Very much like how you would do a job interview and checking references, do the same with your actors. You might find out that the perfect character is also a big jackass on set. And believe me, if an actor really made things difficult on a set, the director's probably going to tell you about it. Another way to save yourself a lot of grief is during the rehearsal period. I know that a lot of low-budget productions don't do a lot of rehearsing, but it is really a step that you should take, if anything, to get a feel for how your actors are going to behave. If you have one that's constantly fighting with you, arguing, not wanting to take direction, my advice, get rid of him. When you're in the pre-production stage, you still have time to replace that character without causing major disruption to the production. If you choose to keep somebody on who is constantly arguing with you, that's just a foreshadowing of what to expect on a set, and that is a person who is very likely to decide to quit at some point. Another thing to keep an eye out for are people who are habitually late. I'm not talking 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'm talking, 20, 30, 40 minutes late, even in some cases even a couple hours. If this is something that happens a lot, You have to wonder about the person's devotion towards the project and his sense of responsibility. What's worse, you might have somebody that holds up a production by an hour or two because they're late, and then they still expect the schedule to go on as planned and they'll be out of there in a couple hours. When you have that type of person, you have somebody who is not devoted to the project, is not going to put in the time for it, doesn't really care if it's done right, they just want to rush through it. That's somebody else you're going to want to dismiss and replace. Now, the really hard part is when you're dealing with somebody who's a lead character. There are some people out there that think that because they're cast as a lead, they can pretty much get away with murder. And in a lot of cases, especially with new directors, they can. A new director will kowtow to a lead because they don't want to have to replace them, especially if you've already started shooting. When you have a lead walkout, it can definitely put a big wrench in your production. So it helps to have a few fail-safes in order for this. One of your best security blankets is to have an understudy. I know that it seems a little weird to talk to somebody about studying to be the lead, even though they won't be the lead in a motion picture. It's not like theater where you can have the understudy night. What I suggest doing is putting the understudy in a small throwaway character in the production. Or, if you can, have him or her working on crew. This person doesn't need to tell anybody that they're understudying. They just need to be available in case somebody decides to leave. I try to stock my casting crews with people who can jump into roles at the last minute if they have to. So while you're casting, look at your second choice, talk to him or her about taking a smaller role or maybe even working on crew, and let them quietly know why. A lot of newer actors in particular will jump at the chance to work on a set or even be in it for a few minutes and are willing to do this understudy role, understanding that it is part of the filmmaking process. If you have a minor character walking out on you, you might be able to write him or her out of the script. Best thing you can do in this point is give everybody a long lunch, sit down, figure out how to do it. The worst case scenario here is that you are halfway through a production, you're working on a tight budget, and one of your main cast decides to leave. This can be a disaster. And believe me, your cast and crew is going to feel the same way you do when the guy walks. When your production has been completely derailed because of this, you have a lot of decisions to make, and you're going to have to deal with a lot of issues. If you had a good contract with your actors and have some sort of a walkout clause, you might be able to sue the actor who left the production. This is not common in low-budget indies. Usually you can get somebody to sign like a non-disclosure agreement or something like that, but it does take money to hire a lawyer to go after somebody in court, and if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to sue the actor no matter how much you want to. Another thing you might be dealing with is your investors who have put money up for your production, and now you've got to go to them and let them know, hey, one of the lead actors walked out, I have to start again. They may or may not be willing to put up more money in order to get you to restart. Another very common issue is having to raise even more money in order to do the reshoots without the benefit of investors. A lot of people do this with crowdfunding platforms. And this can be a little bit tricky or embarrassing because you have to start up another crowdfunder and explain what happened. But something I have seen happen in this scenario is that your actors and your crew will really push for that crowdfunder. If they really believe in the project and they're mad as hell that it got derailed because of somebody, they're going to want to get that project finished. So if you do start up a crowdfunder, they're probably going to be out there yelling it from the highest mountains. You might get fortunate, or you might not. Crowdfunding is always tricky, and I've done videos on that before. The other thing you're going to have to figure out is when you can reshoot. Some stories take place in the spring, others take place in the snow. You may have to wait several months, if not a year, to reshoot if your story is dependent on the weather or the environment. Another problem might be your locations are no longer available and you're going to have to redo that. Basically, restarting a project because of a walkout can be a giant pain in the ass. One thing that you might be thinking about is just throwing the project away and moving on. And sometimes, I hate to say it, but that is the best answer. One thing is absolutely certain. You are going to be madder than hell at that actor who derailed your production. And you might be tempted to start a smear campaign to destroy his career. I'm not 100% against this simply because you might be saving other directors the same aggravation. However, you have to be careful about it. You don't want to come across as somebody who is going to totally wreck somebody's career, because then some people might be hesitant to work for you if they don't have all the details of what happened. But there is a way that word's going to get out. Your cast and crew are going to talk. If they're angry about what happened, they'll be more than happy to talk about how this great project they were on got screwed up because of one guy or girl. And trust me, if they're on another project and they see that guy has been hired, they're probably going to put a bug in that director's ear. To be quite honest, the best revenge you can get on this kind of a person is to succeed. Take a deep breath, raise your money, reshoot your film, get it out there, and make him regret what he did. That's really the best revenge. Just succeed. Move forward. There's really nothing you can do about these types of people, so rise above them. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Unconnected Filmmaker, and if you found this information useful and want to be notified when the next video premieres, just hit that subscribe button. Or if you have anything you'd like to see an episode on, feel free to comment below. See you next time, and keep those cameras rolling.